Dad had a nickname for everyone. My mom, she was Gracie, Graceful, Gertie, Witzenheimer, Gabe. His dad's nickname was Luke. His mom was Tilly. He called me Pooch, or Curly, go figure. Of course, he had his own nicknames. At first he was Junior, from there he went to Zeke, R.E. In the family, we affectionately called him Pops. I'd like to take a few minutes and tell you about my Pops. An only child, he was born just months before the Great Depression. I'm forced to pick a name for his newborn son. While my grandmother recovered from childbirth, my grandfather panicked and named him after himself. Although the immediate family was a trio, his aunts, uncles, and cousins made a much larger, loving group. He spent his Sundays and summers with them. Uncles Si and Bill, Aunt May, his godmother Martha, cousins Pat, John, and Joyce. Joyce, thank you for being here today. My dad loved you dearly. They all helped make his childhood a very happy one. When he got older, he spent his summers working on his Uncle Adolph's farm. Speaking of needing a nickname, try being Adolf in 1942. They called him Dolph. Despite the hard work, he loved it on the farm. A few years ago, he wrote to his Uncle Dick and said, "I could see myself driving off into the sunset with a team of horses hitched to a manure spreader, happy as hell." The only story of any mischief I can remember him telling us of his childhood happened on the way to school one day. While waiting there for the bus with his pals, a passerby discarded a cigarette from the car. Curious, the boys picked it up and gave it a try. Just then, my grandfather drove by, rolled down his window. "I'll see you after work, son." That's all they said. Growing up in a blue-collar family, the son of a Standard Oil truck driver, my dad was preparing himself for a similar life. And then along came basketball. Dropped off at the gym in North Chicago by his mom and aunt, he fell in love with the game and spent the next 11 years learning his skills. He helped lead his high school team to the #1 ranking in the state of Illinois. He traveled around the country playing hoops and received college scholarship offers, including one from Georgetown. But when it came to college, he made a choice that would help shape his next 60 years. He went to Marquette. Within 10 minutes of meeting my dad, he knew where he went to college. There was no one so proud of his alma mater. That's until my sister graduated from the University of Texas. A letterman, my dad lived a dream playing college basketball. He played games in Madison Square Gardens against some of the top teams in the country. One time, he even laced them up against the Harlem Globetrotters. They lost. As a kid, I can remember how thrilled he was when Al McGuire coached Marquette to the national championship. He sang and danced around our house in Dallas, "M-U rah-rah, M-U rah-rah," he rejoiced. He wore a button that read, "Forgive me, Father," but it said, "Give him hell, Al." I still have the button on my desk. He'd write an email to me about the Warriors and seemed perplexed, almost disappointed when I didn't know that Marquette was playing on ESPN2 at 3 a.m. 2 weeks from now, in some meaningless preseason tournament in Alaska. Before the internet, my uncles and cousins like Mary, who was here, thanks Mary and Jerry for driving all the way down. We loved you as well. Used to send him articles of Milwaukee Journal. He once took a family toboggan and wrote on the back, "We're #1," when Marquette was #1 in the polls. He put it outside our house so all the neighbors could see it. The only problem, he was so excited he forgot the apostrophe and it read, "We're #1." In later years, he exchanged emails with sports writers, the athletic director, and anyone who would read his stuff. "What's happening with the coaching search? What's going on with this recruit?" he demanded to know. He traveled to different towns and bars to watch Marquette games with kids a third his age. I remember my first Marquette memory. It was 1969. He left me at the bar with someone he said was my uncle, while he and my mom went to the Marquette game. A few years back, he and some of his fellow letter winners were honored at a home game. I wish I could have seen it and told him how proud I was of him. His MU legacy will live on. In June, he called me to tell me that my son, Andrew, would receive his letter sweater. "Son, you don't know how lucky you are. He loved all sports, especially college sports. Dean reminded me yesterday it probably began when his grandmother took him to a Notre Dame football game when he was a little boy. I know what you Texas fans are saying. Finally, the Irish did something good. He took the family to all sorts of games, some of them memorable, some of them not so much. We saw Lou Brock set a record-stealing basis in St. Louis one year. We also attended a meaningless Wisconsin-Illinois football game in the rain in November in Champaign, Illinois. He has a collection of ticket stubs framed at college football games he attended: Army, Navy, Michigan, Ohio State, all the big ones, and each one with a story. I remember in 1979, he and I were on our way to the UTOU game. Problem was, we had student tickets. As we got closer to the Cotton Bowl, he said, "You have to practice looking older." At the time, I was 14 years old. What was I going to do? He showed me how to clench my teeth and then unclench them by keeping my mouth shut. This was to make me look older. I thought, how was he going to look younger? Over and over I practiced. We got in the game. Texas won 16-7. He loved tailgating with his friends, our friends, whether in Ann Arbor with my pals Jim, Robin, and Rich, and the gang, or Dirk and Dean's friends, Big Mike, Bucko, Joe, and Glenn. My dad loved game days, wherever they were, as long as he was with his friends. If there was a flaw in my dad's sports gene, it was the one that made us all Cubs fans. I guess we didn't have much choice. His dad loved the Cubbies, but then again, he actually saw them win a championship. He'd be watching WGN and I'd get a call. "Curly, did you see that? Jody Davis, 3 home runs in the same game. Sandberg just hit the game winner. The Cubs are cooking with gas." He was as excited as Harry Carey. I knew his day was coming, or perhaps he knew how hapless the Cubs were, but he said to me last year, "Curly, they ain't going to win a World Series in my lifetime." Hey, Dad, they're probably not going to win one mine either. Who could forget his buddies at Mass Mutual or simply the Mass? There was